Be me, Thomas, just a regular guy, late 20s at the time this all went down. Got a decent job in IT, pays the bills, lets me save a bit. Nothing glamorous, but it's stable. I like stable. Met Rita about 5 years back, been married for 3. When we first met, she was amazing, energetic, funny, seemed to have her life figured out. She was into art and design, had this incredible eye for things. We clicked pretty fast. It felt easy, you know? We dated for a couple of years, then got married. Moved into an apartment together. It was a nice place, big windows, good neighborhood. This is where things started to get specific. Rita was all about aesthetics. Everything had to look a certain way. Our apartment slowly became less of a home and more of a showroom for her tastes. The style was what you'd call Scandinavian minimalist. Everything was white or light gray, or some shade of beige. The furniture was all clean lines, sharp angles, and looked like it would break if you sat on it too hard. My old, comfortable leather armchair didn't fit the vibe. We had a discussion, and it was replaced by this wooden thing that felt like a church pew. My collection of sci-fi books, they were cluttering up the space. She bought me an e-reader and told me to digitize my life. I tried to argue, but she'd say things like, "Honey, we need our home to be a sanctuary, a place of peace. Clutter creates chaotic energy." It was hard to argue with that without sounding like a slob. So one by one, my things either went into storage or were donated. The apartment looked like a photo from a catalog. It was clean, it was stylish, but it wasn't really me. Most of the big ticket items were mine, bought before we were married or with money I'd saved up. The 65-inch TV in the living room, my pride and joy. I worked a ton of overtime for that. My gaming console, the high-end coffee machine. These were tolerated because they were modern and sleek, but even then she was always trying to hide the wires, put the controllers in a woven basket, make them blend in. It was a slow, creeping process of erasure. I didn't even notice how much ground I'd given up until it was too late. I told myself it was compromise. That's what you do in a marriage, right? I loved her, so I went along with it. But there was one thing I wouldn't budge on, my box. It wasn't anything special, just a plain brown cardboard box, about the size you'd use for moving books. It sat in the bottom of my side of the closet, out of sight, not bothering anyone. Inside was everything that couldn't be digitized or replaced, my actual physical past. There was a photo, the only one I have, of me and my dad on a fishing trip. I was maybe 10. He passed away when I was in high school. In the picture, he's got this huge, goofy grin, holding up a tiny fish I caught. I remember that day so clearly, the smell of the lake, the way the sun felt on my face. That photo was my most prized possession. In the box was also my first place medal from a middle school track meet. It sounds silly, but it was the first time I ever really felt like I was good at something. The weight of it in my hand felt like $1,000,000. There were letters from my grandmother. She wrote me one every month when I was in college. Her handwriting was shaky, but her words were always so full of love and encouragement. She's gone now too. My first Game Boy was in there, the original gray brick. My parents saved for months to get it for me for my birthday. I must have logged 1,000 hours of Tetris on that thing, and at the very bottom, my grandfather's army dog tags. He never talked about the war, but he gave them to me before he died, told me to be a good man. This wasn't junk. It wasn't clutter. It was my history. It was the proof of the people who made me who I am. Rita discovered the box one day when she was on one of her decluttering rampages. I came home from work to find her staring at it, which she'd pulled out from the closet and placed in the middle of our pristine, minimalist bedroom. It looked like a piece of evidence at a crime scene. The look on her face was one of pure disgust. She asked what was in that disgusting old box. I calmly explained what it was. I even opened it and showed her the contents. I told her the stories behind each item. I thought foolishly that if she understood the meaning, she would get it. She didn't. She picked up my dad's photo with 2 fingers, like it was contaminated. "You can just scan this, you know? Get it digitized. It'll look much better in a digital frame." She held up the Game Boy. "This is just e-waste, Thomas. It's literally toxic." I felt a cold anger start to build, but I kept my voice even. I told her that the physical objects mattered to me, that holding them was different. I told her the box was not up for negotiation. She let out this huge dramatic sigh and said, "Fine, but can you at least keep it hidden?" It's giving off such a heavy, stagnant energy. So I put my history back in the box, sealed it up, and put it back in its dark corner in the closet. That was the first battle over the box. It wouldn't be the last. Over the next year, it became a recurring theme. Anytime she was stressed or in a bad mood, the box became the target. She'd say things like, "I just can't feel truly at peace in this house knowing that box of junk is in there." It escalated. She started framing it as a psychological problem. She read some pop psychology blog and came to me with a new theory. "You have an unhealthy attachment to the past, Thomas. It's holding you back. It's holding us back. You're clinging to these objects because you're afraid of the future." I told her that was ridiculous. I was happy with our future. I just didn't want to erase my past to get there. It was like talking to a brick wall. Her reality was whatever the latest influencer or blog post told her it was. One evening, she brought it up again. "I was talking to my mom today," she began. That was always a bad sign. Her mom was the queen of bad advice, a woman who had been through 3 divorces and acted like a relationship expert. She agrees with me. She said that when a man gets married, he's supposed to let go of his old life. His wife and his new family are his life now. It's a sign of respect. I was floored. Respect? You think it's respectful to ask me to throw away a picture of my dead father? She flinched. She didn't like it when I was so blunt. It messed with her calm, curated world. "You're being hysterical. Nobody's asking you to throw him away. Just the dusty old paper he's on. We can make new memories. Better ones." The argument got heated. It was one of our worst fights. I ended it by saying, loud and clear, "The box stays. It is not leaving this house unless I do. End of discussion." She broke into tears, accusing me of being emotionally manipulative and prioritizing dead people over your living wife. I walked out and went for a long drive. When I came back, she was calm. She apologized for getting upset. Things went back to normal, or what passed for normal. The box wasn't mentioned for a few months. I thought I had finally won. I thought she finally understood my boundary. I was a fool. A few months ago, I had to go on a business trip. Just a short one, 2 nights out of state for a conference. It was a pretty big deal for my company, so I was focused on my presentation and a bit stressed. The morning I left, everything was fine. We had coffee together, she kissed me goodbye at the door, told me to do great. It was all completely normal. The trip went well. I nailed my presentation. My boss was happy. I even found some time to buy Rita a small gift, a nice scarf from a local boutique I knew she'd like. I was genuinely looking forward to getting home. I missed my own bed, my own shower. I got back on a Thursday evening, walked in the door, exhausted but happy. The apartment was spotless, even more so than usual. It looked like no one even lived there. Rita came and gave me a hug. She seemed cheerful. She told me she'd been productive while I was gone. I did a massive deep clean, got rid of so much negative energy. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was too tired. We ordered takeout, watched a movie on the giant TV I bought, and went to bed. The next day was Friday. I worked from home, catching up on emails. In the afternoon, I decided to unpack my suitcase properly. I took my bag into the bedroom, opened up my side of the closet to hang my shirts, and I saw it. The empty space on the floor. It was a perfect, clean, empty corner. My heart just stopped. For a second, my brain couldn't process it. I thought maybe I'd moved it, but I hadn't. I never moved it. I felt a cold dread wash over me. I knelt and ran my hand over the carpet, as if the box would just reappear. Nothing. I stood up and walked out into the living room. Rita was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, a picture of perfect tranquility. My voice was shaking a little when I spoke. "Rita, where's my box?" She didn't even look up. She just kept scrolling with her thumb. "Oh, that old thing?" she said, her voice light and airy. "I finally got rid of it. The garbage truck came this morning. It's gone for good." She finally glanced up at me, a bright, self-satisfied smile on her face. "I did it for us. You'll thank me later. Our home finally feels complete." I just stood there, in the middle of our perfect minimalist living room, and I couldn't feel a thing. It was like a switch had been flipped inside my head. There was no anger, no shouting, just a sudden terrifying clarity. I was looking at a complete stranger. She had taken a part of my soul, burned it, and was now smiling at me, expecting a thank you. She saw the look on my face change. Her smile faltered. "What? Don't look at me like that. It was just junk. You're not actually mad, are you?" I didn't answer. I just turned around, walked back into the bedroom, and closed the door. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, maybe an hour. I could hear her outside, starting to get nervous, pacing a little. Her show on the TV was a little too loud. She knocked on the door after a while. "Thomas, are you okay? You're starting to scare me. It's just a box." That was it. That was the phrase that sealed it. It's just a box. She would never understand. And I realized in that moment that I was done trying to make her. I wasn't just done with the conversation. I was done with everything. The whole compromise, the constant walking on eggshells, the slow chipping away of my identity to fit her aesthetic. I took a deep breath. The numbness was being replaced by a cold, hard resolve. She had made her choice. Now I was going to make mine. I stood up, pulled my largest suitcase from the top of the closet, and placed it on the bed. Then I picked up my phone. I had one call to make before I started. I called my best friend. Let's call him Mark. We've known each other since we were kids. He was the best man at my wedding. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey man, what's up?" I didn't waste any time. My voice was flat, no emotion. "Can I crash at your place for a bit? And are you busy tonight? I might need your truck." There was a pause on the other end. Mark knows me. He knows I don't ask for things unless it's serious. "Yeah, of course. The spare room's all yours. What's going on? Is everything okay?" "Not really. I'll explain when I see you. Can you head over in, say, an hour or two?" "I'm on my way now," he said. "See you in 20. He hung up. That's a true friend. No 20 questions, just action. I put the phone down and opened the suitcase on the bed. Then I started packing. I was methodical, a machine. Shirts, pants, socks, underwear. Everything folded neatly. I wasn't angry, I wasn't sad. I was just empty, operating on autopilot. Rita opened the bedroom door a few minutes later. She saw the open suitcase on the bed, half full of my clothes. Her expression shifted from confusion to a kind of annoyed disbelief. "What are you doing? Are you serious right now? You're packing a bag over a box of garbage?" I didn't look at her. I just kept folding a pair of jeans. "I told you," she said, her voice starting to rise. "I did it for us, to move us forward. Why are you being so toxic and dramatic about this?" There it was, the buzzword. Toxic. Anytime I had an emotion she didn't approve of, it was toxic masculinity. Having sentimental feelings about my dead relatives? Toxic. Wanting to keep a piece of my own history? Toxic. I zipped up the suitcase and put it by the door. Then I grabbed my duffel bag and started filling it with toiletries, my laptop, chargers. She followed me into the bathroom, leaning against the doorframe with her arms crossed. "This is so childish, Thomas. You're going to go stay at Mark's for a night like a teenager who got into a fight with his parents? Then you'll come back tomorrow, and we'll be fine." She was trying to frame it as a tantrum, something small and manageable that would blow over. She had no idea what was happening. I finished in the bathroom and walked past her, back into the bedroom. I grabbed a couple of empty cardboard boxes that were folded up in the closet from our last move. I started assembling them. The sound of the packing tape ripping off the roll was loud in the quiet apartment. Her annoyance turned into real anger. "Okay, I get it. You're mad. You've made your point. You can stop with the theatrics now. Let's just talk about this like adults." I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since I'd walked back into the room. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant. "You made a decision about my things without me. I'm just doing the same." I went into the living room and started with the bookshelf, my books. The few that had survived the initial purge and were deemed aesthetically acceptable. I packed them all, then I moved to the entertainment center. I carefully unplugged my gaming console, all the controllers, the headset, the games. They all went into a box. Rita watched me, her jaw tight. "You love that thing. You play it every night. You're really taking it?" I didn't answer. I just kept packing. Next was the sound system, the expensive speakers I'd spent a year saving up for. She started to follow me around the apartment as I worked, her voice getting more and more shrill. "This is insane. You're tearing our home apart. What is wrong with you?" Our home. It was funny hearing her use that phrase now. I walked over to the coffee bar in the kitchen. I unplugged the high-end espresso machine I bought myself as a birthday present a year ago. As I was carefully wrapping the cord, her tone changed. The anger was cracking, replaced by a tremor of fear. Okay, fine. I'm sorry. Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry I threw out the box. I thought I was helping. I made a mistake. It was the kind of apology you give when you get caught, not when you're actually sorry. There was no understanding in her voice, just a desperate attempt to say the magic words that would make me stop. I put the coffee machine in a box and sealed it. Then I walked over to the 65-inch TV. This was the centerpiece of our living room. We watched movies on it. We had friends over for game nights. It was the heart of the space. I started unplugging the HDMI cables. That's when she truly broke. Not the TV. Thomas, stop. You can't take the TV. That's our TV. Her voice was a wail. I bought it before we were even engaged, Rita, I said, my back to her. The doorbell rang. I went to answer it. It was Mark. He was holding two large empty duffel bags. He took one look at my face, then looked past me at Rita, who was now openly sobbing in the living room. He looked at the boxes stacked by the door. He didn't say a word. He just nodded, walked in, and picked up a box. Where's the truck? I asked. Parked right out front. Hazards on, he said. Let's start loading. The sight of Mark, of this actually happening, sent Rita into a full-blown meltdown. She ran over and stood in front of the door, blocking our path. You can't do this. You can't just leave and take everything. This is my home, too. What am I supposed to do? I looked at Mark. He just raised his eyebrows and waited for my lead. I put my box down and looked at her. I'm not taking everything, I said calmly. I'm only taking my things. But they're our things, she cried, tears streaming down her face. We built this life together. You're destroying it. You're destroying everything we have over one stupid box. And there it was again. The dismissal. Even now, in the midst of this, she still didn't get it. She never would. A profound sense of peace washed over me. I knew, with absolute certainty, that I was making the right decision. I took a step towards her. She flinched, like she thought I was going to yell. You're the one who taught me this lesson, Rita, just a few hours ago. She looked confused, her sobs hitching in her chest. You taught me that if something doesn't bring you joy, if it's just clutter from the past that doesn't fit your vision for the future, you should throw it out. Her eyes widened. I could see the gears turning. I could see the horror of realization finally dawning on her face. You decided my memories were garbage, I continued, my voice low and steady. You decided a part of me was garbage. You threw it away without a second thought because it didn't fit your aesthetic. So now I'm just cleaning up the rest of my stuff, the things that are mine, the things that connect me to a past you've decided has no value. I gestured around the room. This TV, this couch we're about to move, this coffee machine, they're all just things. They're not memories. They're not my father's smile or my grandmother's words. They're just clutter from my past that I'm now removing from your future. I looked her dead in the eye. I'm just following your philosophy. She slid down the door and collapsed into a heap on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Please, she whispered, don't. It was the most pathetic sound I'd ever heard, but I felt nothing. The part of me that would have cared had been in that box, and she had thrown it in a dumpster. Mark and I spent the next hour clearing out the rest. The couch was the last thing to go. It was big and awkward, and we scraped a wall getting it out. Rita didn't move. She just sat on the floor, watching us dismantle her perfect, curated life. When we were done, the apartment was cavernous. The living room was just a rug and her one, stylish but uncomfortable armchair. The walls were bare. The kitchen counters were empty. It was a hollow, empty shell. It finally looked exactly how it had felt to live there for the past year. I took one last look around. Then I walked over to the front door, stepped over her, and walked out. I didn't look back. We drove to Mark's place in silence. We unloaded everything into his garage. He set me up in the spare room, threw a clean towel on the bed, and just said, "Get some rest. We'll talk tomorrow." I laid down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I thought I would feel devastated, and a part of me was. I had lost something irreplaceable. Those letters, that photo, they were gone forever. A piece of my history was erased, but the overwhelming feeling was relief. It was the feeling of taking off a pair of shoes that are 2 sizes too small. The feeling of breathing fresh air after being in a stuffy room for years. I was free. My phone buzzed a few hours later. It was a long string of texts from Rita. Apologies, accusations, threats, begging. She called me a monster for leaving her like that. She said I had abandoned our marriage. She said I had a cruel, cold heart. She said she loved me and couldn't live without me. I read the first few messages, then I stopped. I blocked her number. I turned my phone off and went to sleep. It's been a few months now. I'm still at Mark's, saving up for a new place of my own. The divorce papers are being drawn up. She's trying to get half of everything, of course. My lawyer says she doesn't have much of a case, since I owned most of it before the marriage. Sometimes I feel a pang of sadness when I think about that box. But then I remember the look on her face when she told me she'd thrown it out. The smug satisfaction. The complete and utter disregard for who I was. She didn't throw away my memories. She threw away me. And when she cried because I was taking the rest of myself with me, I finally understood. To her, I was just another object in her house. One she thought she could curate, change, and declutter to fit her vision. She just never expected the object to get up and walk out the door.